Good afternoon, everybody. Before I announce the opening of the 9th conference of INSS, which is focusing today on the changes of the rules of the games outside of Israel and inside, I'd like to mention the very sordid atmosphere that starts this conference because of the two terrorist attacks that happened in the last 2 days. That shows us that we are in a period of continuous terror. We will deal with this issue in the conference, and I don't want to go in at the moment if we're talking about an intifada, continuous or not, but we have to know that this is a very unique and new phenomenon derived by single people. That's why it's difficult to find an immediate solution to the terror of the last few months. I also want to take advantage of the opportunity to send our condolences to the family of Daphna Meir and speedy recovery to the injured of the last few days. But we have to continue. We have to continue with our daily life, and therefore we shall continue to plan the conference the way we did in the beginning. And the annual conference is marking the strategic evaluation of Israel, wishing to find solutions and not just explanations, to evoke creative thinking about the ways in which the state of Israel can cope with the challenges facing it. So I hope it's going to be an interesting and successful conference, and I really appreciate the people who came. This year we have an unprecedented demand. I hope everybody will be able to get in, everybody who wants to come and listen and to learn and maybe to participate as well and to help us to consolidate a new strategy for the State of Israel. I wish all of us success, and I'd like to call upon, first of all, the chairman of the board of INSS, Mr. Frank Lowy, to address us. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very happy to open the 9th conference of INSS. Although I live in Australia, I am a Zionist, I love the State of Israel, and I worry about its future. In the last 50 years, since I fought here in the War of Liberation, the State of Israel has become stronger and acquired friends in order and managed to reach peace with their enemies. However, in the last decade, we are losing friends and we see around us new enemies. I was hoping that the leadership in Israel will know, as it did in the past, to cope with very complex and situations and threats. I hope the government will help to make Israel a Jewish, democratic, open country that is a light unto the nation. But unfortunately, this is not the situation. I hope that another policy that our institute offers can bring Israel back to a strategic edge and a moral one as well. Just hopefully that Israel will be able to acquire new friends, to restore the situation with former friends and make foes into friends. We can do it because in addition to the challenges, there are also around us a lot of opportunities. A very important challenge facing Israel these days are the incitement against the state, which is all over the world, even in the West. There's no question that also in the struggle against the BDS, INSS will be able to contribute its share. As every year, I want to thank all our guests from abroad that made a very long way to come to Israel in order to participate in this important conference. Special thanks to the members who support the INSS, the International and the Israeli Association of Friends. Without them, we couldn't reach the very impressive achievements that we have. We have the privilege to have a partnership with the Tel Aviv University and its president, Professor Klafter. Thank you to the researchers of the Institute, headed by General Amos Yadlin and his two deputies, Udi Dekel and Mrs. Yardeni. I'm very proud to be the chairman of INSS, and I'm convinced that it's going to make the difference in the way that Israel goes in the next few years. I wish all of us a very successful and interesting conference. Thank you.
ראש המטה הכללי, רב אלוף גדי איזנקוט, מר פרנק לואי, חברי הוועד המנהל, חבר הנאמנים הבינלאומי בראשות ג'ון ג'קובסון, חבר הנאמנים הישראלי בהובלת פיני כהן, עמיתיי להנהלת המכון, החוקרים, החוקרות, מכובדיי כולם, צהריים טובים. כנס זה של המכון למחקרי ביטחון לאומי, ה-INSS, יעסוק בהערכת המצב האסטרטגית של מדינת ישראל. Israeli State of the Union. כנס זה יהיה הערכת מצב המשלבת את הבנת התהליכים סביבנו, את הכוונות והיכולות של אויבינו ושל ידידינו, ומעבר לכך, המלצות למדיניות חוץ וביטחון בכל התחומים ושילובם לאסטרטגיית על לישראל. בפרוס השנה האזרחית החדשה,
As we begin a new year, it is now essential more than ever to have a deep thinking process of the strategic horizon that Israel is progressing towards or is not progressing towards. In a period of time where the Middle East is undergoing many dramatic changes and processes that have not been seen in the last century, when borders between countries are being erased, countries are crumbling, and various terrorist organizations are filling the void, it is very important to identify not only the threats, but also the opportunities. At a time when a nuclear deal was signed, yes, a problematic nuclear deal, it is important to identify the ways for implementing a policy that harnesses our ally, the United States, to understandings and agreements in order to promote together with Israel for the long term, which is the dangerous term when it comes to this deal, the various threats that are derived from it, rather than to focus on a diplomatic campaign against our allies. At a time when Israel's status around the world is not at a good point, where people are raising their heads, rearing their ugly heads, we need to find out what is anti-Semitism and what is the lack of recognition of Israel's need to have a home for the Jewish people, and where there is a nucleus of truth that requires our existence here. That is the only way we can take away from our enemies the main arguments that BDS relies on. At a time when a peace process is being stuck, and yes, I believe it's in stagnation mostly because of the Palestinians, because they went out on a terrorism campaign. And once again, we need to take away from the Palestinians the veto over the process that is leading us to the country that we want, a Jewish democratic state that is safe and right and just. At a time when the planning processes are directed to the 8 o'clock news, at a time when images sometimes are stronger than fact, we need someone who will think of the long term. At a time when evaluation organizations do not know what to do and we do not have enough staff, we need to have deep thinking processes in the research institutes in order to cater to the public and to service the government institutions and to fill the void. At a time when political considerations and party-based considerations have the most weight, we need an apolitical and independent institute. At a time when the status quo is the default option by the government, we need a proactive policy that is initiating. The 9th INSS conference we are opening today will give the public and its participants the geopolitical insights of the changing rules of the game as they are changing before our eyes and are forcing us, and it's good that they are, to find new alternatives and to consolidate a new policy for the State of Israel. During this conference, we will be hosting the best experts and strategic thinkers in Israel and across the world. Professionals who are leading and spearheading in their own areas, in politics, in security, from Israel and the world. We will see a plethora of perspectives in this conference, and each and every one of them will talk about the direction they think is best to be headed in. And finally, we will put it together into a package of insights. I would like to thank all of the people who organized this conference, all of those who took part in it. It is a long list. I don't want to name them all, but I must make note of the fact that if it weren't for my two deputies, so to speak, Ms. Hayadeni and Udi Dekel and Dr. Lian Antebi, I would not have been able to promise you that we'll have such a wonderful conference. I do not belong to those who think that Israel is heading towards a dead end. I am one of the believers that Israel is a wonderful country, an extraordinary country, a historical miracle, a very strong country, militarily speaking, with human resource potential that is really amazing, with an ability to invent and reinvent itself, with many people who can work together as a team, if anyone can show them the target. A country that can make achievements that seem impossible at first sight and can really go up the highest mountains even though they seem impossible to climb. We thought that peace with Jordan and Egypt would be impossible, and yet we have managed to reach peace with the largest of Arab countries and with the country that has the longest border with us. We thought that getting to $35,000 per income per capita in a country that has a desert and no natural resources is impossible, and yet here we are. We thought the water in this country would not suffice to meet our needs, and now not only do we desalinate more than we need, we are even giving water to our neighbors. We thought, when I was a student studying economics, that a positive commercial balance is impossible for Israel and that the US dollar will always be preferable to the shekel. But now we have excess in terms of currency, and the shekel is a very stable and strong currency. We are living in a country with the most leading high-tech industry, with the strongest army in the Middle East, with agriculture that is modern and advanced, with leading research facilities, wonderful universities, and even some gas fields. And it's true, we certainly have a place for improvement, and we're not good enough when it comes to education, we're not good enough when it comes to health services, we do not integrate the Arab sector in society enough, there are intolerable gaps between the rich and poor, there is corruption, and we haven't yet managed to reach an agreement with our Palestinian neighbors. However, I would suggest that not meeting these goals should not make us feel weaker. On the contrary, we should forget this strategy of intimidation. We should put behind us the whining and complaining. We should put behind us the defamation and find a different common denominator to work on. The key challenge for us is our ability to distinguish between the lessons of the past that are relevant today and those that are new and relevant in the second decade of the 21st century. What lessons and traumas from the past we should put away on history's shelves because the rules of the game have changed. We will adapt ourselves to the challenges of our time, to hybrid military forces, to soft forces that is sometimes more effective than bombs, to various demographic and climate changes, and to fast and rapid technological changes that have been impacting every aspect of our lives. And I will conclude by saying that from our special force and intensity, and not from our fears, from our security and safety in our vision rather than our fears, we will be able to shape our future, because Zionism always dreamt of a future that seemed impossible and strove to achieve it and even did achieve it. Even in our generation we can. Thank you very much.